send you an email to your Trillium if you're not getting it to your... Okay. About 6:15. Hello, Jordan Sheridan, live on Thursday, June 6th, 2019. I hope everyone is having a lovely day. I have had a very long day, and I am wearing my Make America Sane Again shirt. Make America Sane. Which, full disclosure, my uncle came up with that phrase. I think he got a patent on it too. And yeah, Make America Sane. So I have shirts, I have hats. It's just wonderful. Today is one of the full disclosure. Today is one of those fake it till you make it days. I did not sleep a wink last night. I don't know why. I was tossing and turning. Who knows what I was thinking about. I got up at 4 a.m, took a walk around the block, tried to go back to sleep, didn't work. So I'm a little tired, so if I kind of sound like a little bit of gibberish, that's why. But I'm going to do my best. I'm going to always do my best. And by the way, just so you know, shameless plug, but as I'm live here, I didn't know, I would have coordinated better. As I'm live here with you, I'm on Redacted Tonight. So definitely go to Lee Camp's Redacted Tonight after my broadcast and watch me on there. Lee was out this week, but he was nice enough to have me on to talk about the latest regarding the Flint water crisis, which is still very much a crisis, not treated that way by our corporate criminal media. But as you know, as we've reported at Status Quo, basically the former governor, Rick Snyder, his phones were seized, his iPad was seized, and his computer hard drive was seized by the Attorney General's office this week, which is big deal. Obi Alfred getting us started in the super chat. Tulsi is not courting with Wall Street. That was a disgusting smear peddled by Anna Kasparian and Michael Brooks. Divisive losers. Obi-Wan Kenobi. Sorry if you've been called that before. I will have the news for you. And full disclosure. This is one of the cases where this show could change as we go, because I'm waiting for a response from Tulsi Gabbard's press secretary. I told him I went on live at 5. He told me, can you give me an extension? I said I could wait till 5:30 to cover it. So obviously I want to get her statement. I didn't see Anna Kasparian's segment. I didn't see the others. I did see Jamal Thomas. I love my friend Jamal Thomas, but I think he actually, there was more than one event in question. So I'm going to show you the event that actually might potentially raise some eyebrows. But of course, if Tulsi Gabbard's press secretary responds to me while I'm live, I'll read that. So I'll definitely be checking my email. Jen, check my Proton while I'm live as well to make sure I don't miss an email from them, because we don't want to do a segment on it without giving the Gabbard campaign a chance to respond. So remember, you got a checklist. I need you all. I need you to smash the like button. Somebody asked me, can I tap the like button? No, you may not. I need you to smash that like button into smithereens. The more people that press the like button, the more people that will see this live stream. We are being suppressed by YouTube, so we need you to help us get around that suppression. YouTube, you're seeing now they're demonetizing more people. They're trying to deplatform more people. It's quite a mess. We're hoping that we don't get attacked, and this wide blanket YouTube is casting over everyone. We're hoping it doesn't hit us. So you can help us by pressing that like button. For whatever reason, the more people that like a video or a live stream, the more people that see it that aren't currently watching. So definitely like. Become a Status Quo member. We are currently at 400 and... I got to update that. 438 members. So the more members we grow, the more we could go out into the field and cover the important news that the corporate media covers up. As you saw, we have hired a new reporter. I'm fronting the money for him because we don't quite have the money for him yet. But if I'm not going to believe in status quo, if I'm not going to put my money where my mouth is, how could I ask you to? So if you're on the fence, if you haven't signed up, definitely become a member today. You could do it as low as $5 to $10 a month. $5 to $10 a month. That's way more filling and tasty than a Starbucks Frappuccino or whatever that costs. $5 a month. You can become a Coup Day champion, $10 a month. A Coup Day commander at $20 a month. Or join the Coup Day Cavalry, $179 annually. And we'll talk more about membership a little bit later. Hey, join us, follow us at Status Coup on the Twitter. We're about to hit 6,000 followers on Twitter, and we've really only just begun tweeting. We really weren't doing the best job tweeting from Status Coup. Now we are. So we're growing there. I'm at Jordan Chariton. You could subscribe to our podcast. Use that bit.ly link, or just Google Status Coup Podcast. And join our email list right there, statuscoup.com. Once you click to statuscoup.com, you'll see a little box to enter your email. That's how we grow too. Let me see, why am I dim, or is it just me? Who knows? So I'm going to get to the Tulsi Gabbard thing a little bit later. By the way, this is a super chat. This is a super chat. So if you're feeling super, that's another great way that we could earn revenue here. We are not like everybody else. We're not just looking to, I'm not attacking anybody else, but we're not just looking to report from our studio, from our apartments or our basements. We want to get out into the field. So definitely. If you're feeling super, I forgot. Oh my God, there's so much to tell you. I forgot. We are actively raising money in the GoFundMe as well. We just started pushing that again. We have $20, $25 an hour ago from Janice Thompson. Thanks so much, Janice. $10 from Ed Romano, $10. Guy Schechter, my first cousin. I spoke with him today. I haven't talked to him in forever. He's in Silicon Valley. $72, Guy. I should have told him, what are you doing, Guy? You can't just round to 100? But anyway, I digress. Thank you, my cousin Guy. Cheryl Taylor, $20. Kelly Elaine, as always. So this Sunday for our marathon live stream, we'll have Bernie Sanders' campaign manager. We're going to air the interview I did with him, Fez Shakir. Very good interview. We covered a lot of things, so I look forward to airing that interview. We also have Ron Placone from the Jimmy Dore Show. We're going to have other surprises as they happen. So definitely, whether it be Super Chat or GoFundMe, any amount counts. That's the minimum at GoFundMe is $5. We appreciate it. So I briefly got into this yesterday, but I want to look a little bit closer because there's a new poll out. And it's thank you, presents, $5 in the Super Chat. Shock the world. We're trying. There's a new poll out specifically in Michigan. And I think Michigan, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania is going to decide the election once again. I don't think anything else has dramatically changed on the electoral map. I think Florida, unfortunately, is going to be Republican again, most likely. I think when you look at swing states, I think Ohio has leaned a little bit more conservative. It might be in play for the Democrats, but I think Michigan, Wisconsin, and Pennsylvania are the deciding factors. I really do. So remember, press the like button if you haven't yet. So this poll, it was with the Detroit News, shows that Bernie Sanders and Joe Biden are both beating Donald Trump by 12 points, 53 to 41% in Michigan. So that's pretty good. So if you're politically agnostic, if you just want to beat Trump and you'll vote blue no matter who, you'll say, oh, great. Either way, we're going to beat Trump in Michigan, which again, if you're following politics, Michigan, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, they will decide this election. The only other state that I think could be a true shocker is Arizona. I think Arizona is slowly becoming a little bit less conservative. And I don't think Trump won Arizona by that much. But anyway, so Michigan. To the naked eye, oh, great. If I just want to beat Trump, I win either way. Bernie will beat him in Michigan, or Biden will beat him in Michigan because they're both up 12 points. Not so far. Not so fast. So if you look a little closer into the poll, Biden leads Trump 53% to 41% with 4% undecided, and was the only top candidate from either party with favorable name identification. Wait till Michigan finds out about Middle Class Joe, Union Man Joe, and his love of NAFTA, the TPP, and every single trade deal that has decimated Michigan and the Rust Belt. But I digress. And this poll also showed that he had the strongest support of independents. That was interesting to me. There was no link to actually find the raw poll. I wanted to see how much more favorable did Joe Biden, how much stronger was Joe Biden among independents than Bernie Sanders? Because previous data tells us Bernie Sanders actually has the strongest favorabilities among independents, but I couldn't find a link to where the actual poll was. So, all right, Biden up 12 points, and this is particularly in the state of Michigan, and it says he was strongest among independents. It also says he polled particularly well with female voters, despite recent accusations that the 76-year-old Democrat made women uncomfortable by violating their personal space. Biden is, quote, the only candidate for president on either side of the ballot that independents like, and that is a dramatic finding, some pollster said. So, before I get to the Bernie part of that poll in Michigan, that's complete BS, that Biden is the only candidate that independent voters like. That's just not true. Not true at all. So Bernie Sanders in 2016, if you remember, did incredibly well in open primary states. Open primary states are when independent voters, Democrat voters can vote, not just Democrats, independent voters. That's why he did incredibly well in Indiana, Rhode Island, Oregon, I believe, and many other states that were open primaries. 538, which, not a big Nate Silver fan. I think he's pretty much if you look in the definition of a coastal cocktail crowd liberal who's completely out of touch, Nate Silver's picture is right there. However, this piece on 538 is accurate. All right, 12 years later, another presidential candidate, Bernie Sanders, this is from 2016. Another presidential candidate from Vermont is seeking the Democratic nomination. Like Dean, Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders aims to outflank his opponent from the left. But unlike Dean, Sanders does much better among independents than among Democrats. In New Hampshire, for instance, Sanders won Democrats by 4 percentage points while winning independents by nearly 50 percentage points, a split we've seen repeatedly since then. Some of Sanders' strongest performances in primaries have come in places such as New Hampshire, Michigan, and Wisconsin, states whose rules allow independents to vote in either primary. In fact, to date, Sanders has compiled an unexpected record, performing very well in caucuses, but having won just a single closed primary. So why is Sanders doing so well among independents? It appears to be driven not by their ideology so much as their dislike of partisan politics. And that implication for Sanders' prospects in the upcoming primaries in New York, which was rigged, in Pennsylvania, Connecticut, and Maryland, all of which are closed to non-Democrats. Understanding why Sanders does so well among independents in the Democratic primaries can also give us hints about his appeal to moderate voters should he make the general election. So I just read that to basically debunk what this Michigan poll that says, oh, Joe Biden is doing the best among independents. Well, they didn't link to the actual poll, so I can't look at the numbers to see how favorable is Joe Biden doing among independents. I would venture to guess, based on Bernie Sanders' performance during the 2016 primaries, Bernie Sanders will do way better than Joe Biden in open primary states, because I don't see a whole lot of independents voting for a NAFTA-loving, TPP-loving, Wall Street deregulating-loving, Iraq war-loving, crime bill writer, creepo like Joe Biden. And remember, this is a super chat. And Kimberly S., my shirt says, "Make America sane again." Make America sane again. Sometimes it's a little controversial when I walk around in New York City with it, because people at first glance think it says "Make America Great Again." So it's a good conversation starter. And my uncle actually makes those shirts. Actually, let me see. I don't even know if this website still exists. Shameless promotion for my uncle. MakeAmericaSane.com. MakeAmericaSane.com. Well, it must not exist because it's not loading. Anyway, my uncle, I guess, got a... Oh, no, it does exist. So this is a complete shameless plug for my uncle, but at least I'm being open about it. My uncle made Make America Sane Again hats and shirts. So if you want a Make America Sane anything, go to makeamericasane.com. That's Uncle Steven. And he didn't even put me up to it. So there you go. So maybe I'll ask Uncle Steven if I could take the shirts and we could sell them in the Status Quo store. Jen, can we sell these in the Status Quo store? Or are you going to yell at me? Don't yell at me, Jen. Don't you yell at me. So, the Michigan poll has Biden and Bernie both beating Trump by 12 points. But when you look into the actual numbers, it's a lot better for Bernie Sanders. Bernie Sanders, a Democratic socialist who, they always have to add the socialist part. A Democratic socialist who won Michigan's 2016 presidential primary, leads Trump 53 to 41%, with 5% undecided. Unlike Biden, he has a polling advantage over Trump among male voters and is doing particularly well among men with only a high school degree, a demographic that helped elect the president in 2016. Quote, Sanders has that uniqueness that he kind of disrupts the Trump pattern of less educated male voters, this pollster said. Biden exacerbates it. So let me read that again. Sanders has a uniqueness that he kind of disrupts the Trump pattern of less educated male voters. If you read again, he does very well among male voters and is doing particularly well among men only with a high school degree, a demographic that helped elect the president in 2016. So I don't really, listen, I'm skipping the whole debate about should we focus on the white working class, should we focus on blacks and Latinos and all that stuff. I don't really care who Bernie Sanders or who the Democrats focus on. I care, focus on whichever group you got to focus on to win. To win. Polish Hammer, if you get that job for $100,000, I really hope you'll be donating a couple pennies or, a couple Benjamins, maybe. Hope you get that job. Keep it coming. So I don't, white working class, black working class, identity politics, it doesn't matter. How will Bernie Sanders win? How will a Democratic Party nominee win? And the answer is by picking off 20 to 25% of Donald Trump's voters. I even think if you pick off 10 to 15% of Donald Trump's voters, there's a chance that a Democratic nominee could win. Because the Democratic nominee, for the most part, is going to get the Democratic vote. I think older Democrats would even hold their nose and vote for Bernie Sanders. I really do. I think young people would come out in droves for Bernie Sanders. And yes, smash the like button. We got 230 watching, but only 135 likes. So if all things are equal and the Democratic candidate can get, older people, can get younger people, can get black people, can get Latino people, that still doesn't necessarily beat Trump. Hillary Clinton got a lot of those from all of those groups. The problem was she did not inspire those Reagan Democrats. And 10% of those who voted for, 10% of Democrats who voted for Barack Obama switched to Donald Trump. So which candidate can get the Democratic votes, but also take voting share away from Trump? Well, this poll shows you the candidate in Michigan in particular, and I get pretty sure you'll have a similar story in Wisconsin and Pennsylvania because it's very similar demographics. It's predominantly white, working class, and those states have been destroyed by NAFTA, trade deals, offshoring of jobs, deindustrialization, automation, and on and on. And if you're living in Michigan, if you're living in Wisconsin, if you're living in Pennsylvania, if you're living in Ohio, and you're watching, you know exactly what I'm talking about. So what this goes hand in hand with what I experienced firsthand on the 2016 campaign trail, because I made it a habit to interview Trump voters at his rallies, and I asked, hey, if not Trump, who would you vote for? Thinking maybe I'll get Ted Cruz, maybe I'll get Ben Carson, somebody in this clown car. I got probably dozens of people who told me Bernie Sanders without even thinking twice, because Trump got a lot of voters that were, some of them were traditional Republicans, but a lot of them were basically have voted both Democrat or voted Republican, depending on the candidate. So Trump got the anti-establishment, yes, white working class voter. I don't find it racist to say you do want to get white working class voters. You also want to get a huge turnout from black voters and Latino voters and millennial voters. I don't think it's bad to say, yes, he should get, he wants to get those voters that voted for Trump, which were white, largely working class voters, but also he wants to bring out an unprecedented amount of young people. He wants to bring out voters who haven't voted in many elections. Who is going to have a chance to pick off 10 to 20% of Trump voters in Michigan? Well, this poll tells you. Bernie Sanders. Right there. Unlike Biden, he has a polling advantage over Trump among male voters and is doing particularly well among men with only a high school degree, a demographic that helped elect the president in 2016. Quote, Sanders has that uniqueness that he kind of disrupts the Trump pattern of less educated male voters. Biden exacerbates it. Well, Hillary Clinton did fairly well with those with college degrees. She did very poorly with white men without college degrees. So, two things. Who's going to get 10 to 15% of Trump voters? And who is going to get back those Obama voters that switched over to Trump? Because part of Trump's voting bloc was Obama voters that switched over to Trump. It's Bernie. You want to know why? Because I was there. It wasn't Putin. It wasn't Putin that convinced those people in Wisconsin, Michigan, and Ohio to vote for Donald Trump. It was NAFTA. As soon as Trump was hollering about NAFTA at these rallies, it was kind of like The Lion King with the hyenas pouncing. They were pouncing. They loved it so much. When he said, I'm getting rid of NAFTA, and I'm bringing the jobs back, and I'm taking it to Goldman Sachs. Of course he was full of it. Of course he was full of beep, trying not to get demonetized. But this is the way to beat him. This is the way to beat Donald Trump. So I want you to save this article. I'm putting it in the live chat. Excuse me, I'm putting it in the super chat. This is a super chat. Because I don't want to hear it from the Democratic Party if they push Joe Biden, and when Joe Biden loses, the data and the evidence was right there that Bernie Sanders could pick off a substantial amount of Donald Trump voters. It's right there. They're just blind. And by the way, polling and status quo has exposed that many of these polls are... Oh, Jen, can I really not curse, Jen? Can you give me permission to curse, or I'm not allowed? I could only do what Jen tells me I could do. That's how this works. As we've exposed that these polls are BS because they're oversampling people over 50, they're undersampling people under 50. A lot of these polls also, if you look at it, a very large number of people don't know Joe Biden's record in the Senate. So you wait till Donald Trump starts calling him NAFTA Joe. You wait till Donald Trump starts calling him TPP Joe. You wait. Thank you, Tony Clifton. $10 in the GoFundMe. Now we're at $55,689. Folks, keep it coming. We haven't had a lot, but this is how we're going to keep our new reporter, Marcus. This is how we're going to get more money to go in the field on the campaign trail. This is how we grow, and we're going to get to membership in a little bit. So any amount makes a huge difference. Jen will put the link in there. So the other thing is not only is Donald Trump going to expose him, but Joe Biden is actively fundraising as we speak. Well, not as we speak. He's actively scheduling fundraisers with union busters, He's actively scheduling fundraisers with donors that were on Obama's TPP committee. Donors that tried to push through the TPP with Obama. Obama had a TPP committee. One of the donors that's setting up a fundraiser for Joe Biden in San Francisco was on the TPP committee and was pushing the TPP. You don't think the voter... Okay, so these people in Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, they suddenly are going to not care about NAFTA and TPP when they were very, very concerned about it in 2016, and that's one of the big reasons that they voted for Trump and were against Hillary Clinton? I'm telling you. Now, we focused on Bernie. There's also a problem as far as Joe Biden with women, in addition to him being creepy and sniffing young children's hair. As Jen, Status Quo's co-founder, as Jen reports, Joe Biden, while he was with President Obama as vice president, tried to defund contraception as part of Obamacare. He tried to pull contraception for women as part of Obamacare. You can't make this stuff up. So he might be doing well with women now, but is he going to be doing well with women later? Here's Jen.
Hey there, it's Jen, and I'm here with another story about Joe Biden and his foibles, and not just foibles, but terrible policies that negatively affect the lives of everyday Americans, and especially women. Joe Biden is no friend to women. It doesn't matter what he says on the campaign trail, he just isn't. His policies are more in line with that of the Catholic Church's desires than they are with the needs and what would benefit women. And today I'm speaking specifically of contraception. And actually, while Joe Biden was vice president, he actually worked to undermine Obamacare's contraception mandate. So he was working against something, and I'll say it again, that would benefit the lives of millions and millions of women across the country, especially those who didn't have coverage and who were lower income. He worked against it, contraception coverage, because he's Catholic. And he worked with the U.S. Conference of Catholic Bishops to push for a broad exemption that would have left millions of women without coverage. So this guy seems to believe that the needs and beliefs of Catholic men come before the needs of women. And this is not the first issue that Biden has had along these lines. He also was discovered or rediscovered as supporting the Hyde Amendment, which bars federal money from being used to fund reproductive health services. So this article that I'm going to read to you comes from The Intercept by Ryan Grimm, and this goes more in depth into how he worked to undermine contraception care in Obamacare, contraception coverage in Obamacare. So let me pop over here. Again, this is in The Intercept by Ryan Grimm. Joe Biden worked to undermine the Affordable Care Act's coverage of contraception. As vice president, Joe Biden repeatedly sought to undermine the Affordable Care Act's contraception mandate, working in alliance with the U.S. Conference of Catholic Bishops to push for a broad exemption that would have left millions of women without coverage. Biden's battle over contraception is a window into his approach to the politics of reproductive freedom, a function of an electoral worldview that centers working-class Catholic men over the interests of women. The issue has been causing his presidential campaign some discomfort. On Wednesday, Biden's campaign clarified that he remains a supporter of the so-called Hyde Amendment, a provision that bars federal money from being used to fund reproductive health services. Biden had recently told an activist with the American Civil Liberties Union that he opposed the amendment and wanted to see it repealed. So I want to come out and say I have no problem with Biden being Catholic. What he believes is what he believes. But when his religious beliefs come into play for policy and come into play to negatively impact the lives of women, that's where I have a major, major problem. And from contraception to his support for the Hyde Amendment, this is a major, major deal. And it's something that the mainstream media is not making a big enough deal about. They've mentioned it, sure, but this should take him down in the polling by a lot. And we'll see if it does. Back to the article here. On contraception, according to contemporaneous reporting and sources involved with the internal debate, Biden had argued that if the regulations implementing the Affordable Care Act were going to mandate coverage, it would have angered white male Catholic voters and threatened Barack Obama's re-election in 2012. Biden's main ally in the internal fight over contraception was Chief of Staff William Daley. Both men are Catholic. Opposing Biden was a faction of mostly women advisors, joined by some men who argued that Biden had both the policy and the politics wrong. On policy, they noted that if his broad exemption went into effect, upwards of 6 million women who happened to be employed by religious-affiliated organizations would lose contraception coverage. The politics were just as bad, they argued, given that women were increasingly becoming central to the party's success. To turn on them on the issue of access to birth control, embracing a fringe position not even adopted by most Catholics who aren't bishops, would put that support at risk. So you'll notice that working with Biden on opposing contraception coverage was a man, mainly a man, also a Catholic man. Working against Biden, in other words, working for the contraception mandate, were women. Because women understand. Women know what's at stake here. Women are finally standing up more and more for their rights to contraception, to abortion, to healthcare, because that's what it is. It's healthcare. So men need to learn to listen to women is the bottom line there. Biden has long said that he is personally opposed to abortion, but supports the legal right. His support of Roe v. Wade has not always been full-throated. When it comes to issues like abortion, amnesty, and acid, I'm about as liberal as your grandmother, Biden said in a June 1974 article. I don't like the Supreme Court decision on abortion. I think it went too far. I don't think that a woman has the sole right to say what should happen to her body. Let me address the grandmother line there. I find that very condescending. I know obviously that there are Catholic grandmothers out there who would oppose contraception and who would oppose abortion and the right to choose. But I have to say, my grandmother was very prominent proponent of the right to choose and the right to, well, prominent in my world at least. I'm not saying she was out there on the front lines of the issue, but she was very liberal when it came to women's rights, and I think it's because women understand. At all generations, women understand what's at stake when it comes to healthcare. And also extremely problematic is when Biden says, I don't think women have the sole right to say what should happen to her body. And when he says that, he's talking about the I guess men having input. So he believes that a woman should come to a man and say, hey, look, I'm pregnant. Let's make this decision together. Well, I don't care that it was in the 70s. That's wrong. A woman's body, it's her body. It's a healthcare issue. If she chooses to have an abortion, that is her right. That is her choice. I agree with some along these lines that it would be nice if she would consult the man. I certainly would. But that the bottom line is that it's the woman's decision, it's her body, it's her right to choose. That's all. There are no caveats, there are no she must talk to the man first, she must do this, she must do that. No. It is her sole decision. It's between her and her doctor. That's it. So Biden is just so far away from women's issues. He just doesn't get it. He didn't get it in the 70s, and he doesn't get it today. It continues today. Again, it doesn't matter that he said the most terrible things in the 70s. What matters is that this is his beliefs, and he still holds these beliefs. This man cannot be president. Because Biden's anti-Roe comments came so long ago, more than 4 decades, some have argued that they are of little value in gouging his current politics. But his battle against contraception and his unwillingness to join the bulk of the Democratic field and call for the repeal of the Hyde Amendment puts him dramatically out of step with today's party. Biden is so out of step, in fact, that when he was shown polling data during the contraception fight, he dismissed it as inaccurate. He has a view of the American electorate's politics on abortion that can't be influenced by news facts. Jake Tapper, then reporting for ABC News, reported in February 2012, the two sides couldn't even agree about what they were debating. In the fall, Planned Parenthood head Cecile Richards brought in polling indicating that the American people overwhelmingly supported the birth control benefit and health insurance. She also highlighted statistics showing the overwhelming use of birth control. The vice president and others argued that this wouldn't be seen as an issue of contraception, it would be seen as an issue of religious liberty. They questioned the polling of the rural advocates, arguing that it didn't explain the issue in full. It ignored the question of what religious groups should have to pay for. And they argued that women voters for whom this was an important issue weren't likely to vote for Mitt Romney, who has drawn a strong anti-abortion line as a presidential candidate, saying he would end federal funding to Planned Parenthood and supporting a personhood amendment that defines life as beginning at the moment of fertilization. Similarly, Mike Dorning and Margaret Tlaib reported Vice President Joe Biden and then White House Chief of Staff Bill Daley, also Catholics, warned that the mandate would be seen as a government intrusion on religious institutions. Even moderate Catholic voters in battleground states might be alienated, they warned, according to the people familiar with the discussions. So what they're arguing is obviously not against, or what they were arguing, and what Biden, I have to say, it looks like he still believes this today, it wasn't that long ago, is that Catholic institutions and those institutions where it went against their religious beliefs shouldn't have to provide contraceptive care. Back to the article here. Sorry about that. It was ultimately public anger that led to Biden and Daley's defeat on the issue. On January 31st, 2012, as the administration was finalizing its policy, it was reported that Susan G. Komen for the Cure had cut its funding of Planned Parenthood in a push led by abortion foe Karen Handel. The fury over the decision stunned the organization, which backtracked and apologized within a week, as Planned Parenthood raised hundreds of thousands of dollars from angered supporters of abortion rights. We want to apologize to the American public for recent decisions that cast doubt upon our commitment to our mission of saving women's lives, Komen said in a statement on February 3, 2012. The White House watched the affair closely, and the blowback punctured the mythology that there was no real public support for abortion rights. It also sent a signal that if the White House backtracked on access to contraception, it would expect a livid response. The exemption that was ultimately granted on February 10th was a narrow one, frustrating the bishops. In his vice presidential debate with Mitt Romney's running mate, Paul Ryan, Biden attempted to portray it as a broad exemption. No religious institution, Catholic or otherwise, including Catholic Social Services, Georgetown Hospital, Mercy Hospital, any hospital, none has to either refer contraception, none has to pay for contraception, none has to be a vehicle to get contraception in any insurance policy they provide. That is a fact, Biden said in the debate. In a rare public disagreement with Biden, the U.S. Conference of Catholic Bishops shot back with a statement accurately saying that Biden's claim was not a fact. Indeed, many religious-affiliated entities that had hoped to win an exemption and which had Biden's support inside the White House had failed. But with Biden now a frontrunner for the Democratic nomination for president, they may get another shot at denying access to contraception to their employees. And if they are allowed that shot to deny contraceptive care, that will be extremely dangerous to millions and millions of women. I've repeated that over and over again in this stream. It's true, and it's very scary, and Joe Biden and his beliefs cannot be allowed to harm the lives of women. Women must have access to contraceptive care. It is a healthcare need. What Biden has tried to do, what Biden is likely to try to do, is despicable. And I say over and over, the things that Biden does are despicable. The things Biden believes are despicable. He is not an acceptable candidate for President of the United States. This has been Jen, and I will talk to you later with more Biden news and news on the 2020 candidates.
Give it up for Jen, doing a great report. Well, it was originally done by Ryan Grimm of The Intercept, who had that, and Jen gave her thoughts on it. I think Joe Biden is a absolute... Oh, wait a minute. I got to show you this. Sorry, the screen is going to go blank. I had Colin do this today. It is amazing. I'm going to use this for the rest of the campaign. Train Biden. Joe Biden is a slow-moving train wreck. I mean, what do you call it? What do you call what's happening right now? He won't apologize for the crime bill. He's still actively, I think last week, was touching a young child's shoulders and sniffing close to her hair. He is, he's for the Hyde Amendment. This is who's going to beat Donald Trump. He might have less people come out for him on the Democratic side than Hillary Clinton did. Conductor Joe, that slow-moving train wreck. Thank you, Colin Tooley, for the nice visual. I will be using that for the next several months. So we'll see what happens. Before I move on to talking about Tulsi Gabbard and whether she's taken Wall Street's money, I want to remind you folks, to all 240 of you watching, status quo can only grow as far as you take us. We are now at 439. We gotta update that. 439 paying monthly members, and that's to go with our 330 patrons. So we're at like 700. We're at like 770, I believe, total paying members, which is super, super important. Membership is how we grow. If you've been following the channel, we've been out in the field more than any other independent media network over the past year. We just covered Bernie in Nevada and California, thanks to our new reporter, Marcus Ely, which if you haven't seen Marcus's work, go check it out. And you could become part of this work. You could help fund this work so we don't ever have to take money from the corporate criminals destroying this country. We won't anyway. But if you want to fund in the field reporting, you have to become a status quo member for as low as $5 to $10 a month. That's how we're going to grow. So if you've been sitting on the fence, we don't just tell you what we're going to do. We've shown you what we're going to do. And we would like to get out there and cover Bernie rallies. We'd like to get out there and cover Tulsi events. We'd like to get out there and cover Biden and Kamala and Mayor Pete events and challenge their voters. We would like to cover the local issues happening in these pivotal election states, like I did at the Young Turks. We'd like to cover more water contamination stories, police brutality, disappearing middle class type stories in the field. My back is slowly but surely healing from my latest surgery, and I know that I'm ready to get out in the field. Marcus is here to report in the field, and hopefully as we grow, we are going to build and be able to hire more reporters. So I hope, check it out, statusquo.com/join, and you also get great perks, bonus content, behind the scenes videos, extra content from the field that we don't put on YouTube. So definitely check it out now. You can become a status slayer for $5. Kude Champion for $10, Kude Commander for $20, or join us annually rather than monthly, $179 annually. So, moving on. This next story, honestly, could change while I'm live. I've been waiting for Tulsi Gabbard's campaign to get back to me. Her campaign press secretary did get back to me asking if he could have an extension, because I said I go live at 5, so can you give me a comment before I go live? He said, can I have an extension? So I told him 5:30. Haven't heard from him yet, so we'll see what happens. I have not seen any other segment on this. I saw Jamal Thomas do a segment on this, but I did not see. I heard people saying my former colleague Anna Kasparian did something on this, and others. So I've only seen Jamal's segment on this. I love Jamal, but he only. I don't think it was intentional, but I think he missed. I think he missed one of the events that's in question. So first, let's get into one of the events that, to me, does not seem problematic. Tulsi Gabbard's going to be in New York, I believe, starting tomorrow, and she's doing this event. It's on 38th Street. I don't know whose apartment that is. It doesn't say whose apartment that is. I heard from somebody it's a surgeon, but I don't. Oh, Dr. Raj Bayani, who is a surgeon, so he's not a Wall Street bigwig. So I don't know why that's problematic. To me, I think there was a little confusion where people thought that the Fox News story that said she was courting Wall Street donors was talking about this particular event. I don't think that Fox News story was actually talking about this particular event. And again, I have reached out to Tulsi Gabbard's campaign because I want to be fair and I want to give them a chance to give a comment. So I'm just going with my knowledge of the event, my knowledge of who is sponsoring the event, and I will definitely update the story if they get back to me after. So this is the event that I think comes off a little problematic. And I'm a fan of Tulsi Gabbard, but I can't treat her with kid gloves. I can't treat Kamala Harris and Joe Biden and the rest of them one way and not be consistent if it's Tulsi Gabbard. So this is happening tomorrow in New York City. It's a breakfast, obviously, with Tulsi Gabbard. It's hosted by Farvahar Partners, which I'll just read you the description here. Omid Malik, a former Bank of America prime brokerage executive who is widely known in the hedge fund industry, has started in a merchant bank to invest in early-stage businesses and alternative investment funds. Malik formed Farvahar Partners in January with partner Joe Vabaril, who previously worked under Malik at Bank of America. The New York firm will invest proprietary capital in consumer-oriented technology companies, blah, 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 not niche-focused hedge funds, and private. So this guy, I'll just tell you straight up, how I start looking into donors is I Google the person's name and corruption. It's not that hard. The corporate media just doesn't want to look. So I just Google a person's name who I see is either donating to a candidate or a fundraiser is being held with a person, donating at the fundraiser. I type the person's name and corruption. When I typed this person's name, nothing that problematic came out. He did get fired from Bank of America. Apparently there were some accusations against him from a woman. I don't really know the details surrounding that. He actually sued and he got a big settlement from Bank of America. So I don't really know enough about it to tell you whether this guy who owns the private equity group that's sponsoring Tulsi's breakfast tomorrow, I don't know enough about it to know if he did something wrong or he didn't do something wrong. So I'm just going to remove that from the equation. He was pretty high up there at Bank of America. So the bottom line is she's doing a fundraiser tomorrow with a former executive at Bank of America. The other part of this that I think is, I do think it's a little problematic, to be honest with you. I can't treat Tulsi Gabbard different than I would other candidates. This event is at a place called the Core Club. The Court Club here in New York. So let me show you that. So Court Cultural Programming, breakfast with Congresswoman Tulsi Gabbard. Well, the Court Club is really an epicenter for really, really wealthy, out-of-touch folks to go be wealthy and out of touch. I'll just read you briefly. They describe a really rich woman walking into a place. She looked like money. The woman with the sleek long legs, tanned a light toast color, and with a mane highlighted by honeyed streaks conjured by some magician. Her suit was Chanel, but emphatically not matronelle Chanel. Her wrists were manacled with slave bracelets from Cartier. So you get the point there. This New York Times story is describing a very wealthy woman. She ordered, well, what does it matter what she ordered? As Marlene Deitch once ordered, New Yorkers, and particularly those of certain social stratum, are hungry for everything except food. And for those New Yorkers and their kind those used to breathing the rarefied air of great wealth, there is a particular gathering place in Manhattan, a quiet 6-story annex of a midtown office building, unmarked and inconspicuous, where they can be among their kind. The place is the Core Club. This private members-only club on East 55th Street was created 6 years ago to serve as a place where, the New York Times reported before it opened, a geographically and socially diverse set of wealthy people might, quote, gather and meet others of the same disparate tribe. I mean, I don't know how to describe it other than this is a gathering where rich people gather. There's no other way to say it. This is where rich people hobnob. They have events, they have social gatherings, cocktail parties, lectures, things like that. So Tulsi Gabbard is having an event there tomorrow morning with this guy, Omid Malik, the founder and CEO of Farbahar Partners, which Farbahar Partners isn't like a big bank on Wall Street. It's a kind of like a private equity firm. It does a lot of dealings with hedge funds and other kind of Wall Street businesses, but it's not like a huge Merrill Lynch, Goldman Sachs kind of place. However, Malik was a big Bank of America executive. So the question becomes, do we destroy Tulsi Gabbard for having a fundraiser with anyone associated with Walmart? See, I haven't slept. Do we destroy her for having a fundraiser with anyone linked to finance and Wall Street? Or do we wait to see what is this guy's positions? Because I don't mean it in any other way than it sounds, but the bottom line is he's Muslim. So it's a possibility that as a Muslim man, I don't know, that he is very attracted to Tulsi Gabbard's position on ending the regime change wars and the endless military-industrial complex that has been bombing and killing Muslim people around the world, basically for the last forever, by the military-industrial complex. That is a possibility. So I have to play devil's advocate. If I saw that she was having a fundraiser with someone from Goldman Sachs or something like that, I'd be a lot more outspoken. The fact is, this guy was at Bank of America. I looked. I didn't find anything as far as corruption with him at Bank of America. And we also have to state what Tulsi Gabbard has voted for and against. This is her last year as far as voting against Wall Street deregulation.
Thank Ranking Member Waters for her leadership in opposing this bill and standing for the protection of everyday Americans. We can't forget that it was only 10 years ago that millions of hardworking families watched their life savings entirely wiped out. They lost their homes. They couldn't afford to send their kids to college. And all of this heartache, this pain, this suffering that they went through was a direct result of risky predatory lending practices and too big to fail banks that did not have sufficient capital in place to support and absorb their financial losses. It was in the aftermath of this financial disaster in 2008 that Congress passed protections to prevent this from happening again. But here we are today where these big banks now believe that we should simply forget the past mistakes that they made and instead only evaluate their current activities to determine certain capital requirements. I guarantee you those families who have suffered have not simply forgotten about what they went through and what they are still struggling to overcome and recover from. By ignoring critical indicators of past activities, this bill would allow big banks like Wells Fargo, for example, who defrauded the American people just in the last several months by opening millions of fake accounts, to get away with a slap on the wrist. And the American people are set up to take the fall for their actions. Now, supporters of this bill claim that current capital requirements stifle lending and hurt our banks and the economy. But the facts say otherwise. In 2016, bank profits reached an all-time high, and today business lending is up 75% since 2010. Our country's banks added more than $700 billion in capital to absorb potential losses and protect Americans and our economy from financial disaster. Higher capital requirements don't restrict lending. They simply ensure that big banks that are even bigger today than they were in 2008 can absorb their losses without depending on taxpayers for a bailout. The American people deserve a financial system that works for them and their families, not one that bets against them to boost Wall Street profits. We need to pass legislation that increases these capital requirements of banks with assets greater than $50 billion and continue to enact and strengthen reforms that will protect our economy and American families from another massive collapse. That's why I'm strongly urging our colleagues to reject this dangerous bill and instead work together towards efforts to build a financial system that serves the American people, not special interests or Wall Street banks. I yield back.
So that was Tulsi Gabbard last year, speaking out against a bill that ended up passing to deregulate the big banks, which, by the way, 16 Democrats in the Senate voted for. Because the Democratic Party are Republicans. They're just nicer to women and minorities. But I digress. So I'm going to keep it real. I am a little biased towards Tulsi Gabbard, and I'm inclined to wait and give her the benefit of the doubt until I hear why she's doing a fundraiser with a private equity firm. That is my thought. If there was a pattern of her doing fundraisers with people on Wall Street, if there was a pattern of her doing fundraisers with private equity or something like that, it would be a little bit more problematic. This is one event with a former Bank of America executive who may happen as a Muslim. I believe that may be part of it, be attracted to the strongest candidate as far as being in opposition to endless war, the military-industrial complex, bombing innocent countries and people all over the world. So I'd like to see what her campaign has to say. Like I said, I looked into this guy, Omid Malik, who is the CEO of the firm that is sponsoring the breakfast. And again, this is the event tomorrow. It's hosted by Farvahar Partners, so I don't really know. I don't have any information on how much money the Farvahar Partners is giving her. I think the reality is she's probably needs more money for her campaign, and I'm not ready to declare Tulsi Gabbard a hypocrite or a fraud based on one event that I'd like to know more about, and I'd like to know more about why she's hosting an event with this particular firm, and why this particular firm, obviously if they're hosting a breakfast with her, that would seem to indicate they like her positions. So I'm trying to play it both ways, where I'm going to be honest with you, I mean, it doesn't look terrific that somebody who has spoken out against private equity is, doing a breakfast with, a former Bank of America executive. However, it's one event, and I'd like to know more. So that's really all I could fairly say about it. We'll see. I think her campaign's going to get back to me probably tonight. So you could definitely follow Status Quo's Twitter. If you don't follow our Twitter yet, what are you doing? So once the campaign gets back to me, I will issue, definitely have that statement out on why she's doing this particular fundraiser, and I don't particularly see it as problematic, only because it's one event does not make a pattern. If I start to find out more and more events that are not on the calendar, and more, kind of secret conversations with Wall Street people and taking their money, then bottom line, I'm not going to treat Tulsi Gabbard different than I do other politicians. You got to keep it consistent. But for now, she's given really no reason to think that she's some fraud. I just don't see that. So I will update you, and I hope that's being fair. I might get attacked by some quarters of YouTube that are kind of sycophants for certain politicians, but I don't really care. I'm keeping it real. I don't think it's a great look to have a private breakfast with a former Bank of America executive. However, maybe that former Bank of America executive is for reining in Wall Street. I doubt it. Maybe that former Bank of America executive is for breaking up the big banks. I doubt it, but you never know. So we'll see. Her campaign did get back to me saying, asking me, can I give them an extension as far as them getting me a comment? I said I go live at 5, so I'll talk about this later in the live stream. They didn't get back to me in time, so when they get back to me, I'll definitely update the story. And that's it. I think that was fair, and I'm being open that I have my bias in support of Tulsi Gabbard. Definitely, I would say gives me a little nudge to give her the benefit of the doubt until I know more information. If this was Kamala Harris, I would not give her the benefit of the doubt, because it's not one event. It's a lot of Wall Street donors. It's a lot of Wall Street type events. Same thing with Mayor Pete. Same things with Cory Booker. Same things with Middle Class Joe. I look for trends and patterns. This is one event. I'd like to know more about the event. That's it. But if I find out that she's doing more, listen, campaigning is hard, especially when the media is blacking you out. I could tell you as a truly grassroots, independent media network, it is tempting sometimes to take quick money. We haven't done it because we don't think we will succeed if we sell out. But I could see why a campaign that's had a total media blackout, when they do get campaign coverage, it's painting her as an Assad apologist or a puppet of Putin. I could see why, if you're struggling in the polls or you're struggling financially, you might kind of be a little bit more flexible and say, all right, I don't know what she's getting from this private firm, but if they're going to give me, let's say they're going to give $50,000, whatever, I'll do a breakfast with them. I could see why that would be tempting, but I also think as progressives, we got to be consistent. So if she is doing a breakfast with a Wall Street executive or a private finance guy who says we need Medicare for all, and we need free public college tuition, and we need to rein in the military-industrial complex, and we need to reinstate Glass-Steagall, I don't think great. Pass me the Eggs Benedict if that's the case. But I don't know many Wall Street executives that are for those things. Do you? Just keeping it real. So that's what I think. It's unfortunate. I'm not blaming her campaign. I'm sure they're dealing with a lot. It's unfortunate I wasn't able to get. They didn't get me a comment on this. I reached out to them this morning and then I followed up. So when I do have the comment, I'll follow up. So as I wrap up today, I want to give you a little bit of a reminder. Give you an update. Also, we're just under. Yeah, we're getting close to 56,000 on the GoFundMe. So if you appreciate independent reporting, if you appreciate honest, authentic reporting, if you appreciate reporting that's not Democrat or Republican, but basically calls out corruption and injustice wherever it exists, I hope you'll drop a couple bucks into there. The minimum is $5. We have to fundraise to keep our new reporter Marcus. We'd also like to hire more reporters. We need more money to go in the field. I want to get back in the field. And also, we really, really hope if you've enjoyed this live stream and you're not yet a Status Coup member, come check us out, statuscoup.com/join. You'll get great bonus behind-the-scenes content. We do monthly video calls with our members and a lot of other cool membership perks. And I will be back here tomorrow, 5 o'clock Eastern, and Sunday, noon Eastern, is our marathon live stream. I'll have an interview with Bernie Sanders' campaign manager. We'll have Ron Placone from the Jimmy Dore Show. Maybe a few other surprises. We'll see. Remember, we need to make America sane again. Let's make America sane again. And it's been a pleasure. I'm going to go try to take a nap because I didn't sleep last night. Remember, folks, most people are not lacking compassion. Most people have no earthly idea what is going on in this United Corporations of America. And also remember, go over to Redacted Tonight on YouTube. Lee was out this week, but they were nice enough to have me on yesterday. Isn't it kind of sad in America that it takes a foreign news channel, RT America, to cover Flint? Lee Camp and Redacted Tonight and RT America are covering the Flint water crisis more than American news channels. Let that sink in. So head over to Redacted Tonight after this live stream. My interview with them is up. I appreciate them having me on, and I look forward to going on again and again and again. And I will see you tomorrow. Peace out.